Great pleasure to welcome you to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the sustainable stock exchange that champions Africa's growth. I know that for majority of you here, you know what we do at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but since it's the beginning of the year, please allow us for just about 60 seconds just to remind you of, who we are and what we do.
Hello, bro. Alpha, I don't confirm that stock market level where you tell me about though. I'm on a confirm or forget. Right now, I just find money, put money inside them. Now investment, but now based on stock market, now legit money, legit. Everybody they run old people, young people. Make we no dull on this one. I beg. Forget to make we no dull on this investment. Make we see this evening. All right.
Buy your stock fish.
BM, Afana. Now you they say this fish.
Yes, it's the new stock market.
And I want cook, I go like buy.
Which one do you want? This one is 500. This one, 200.
What things I go fit pick this one, so I give you 200. Neighbor to neighbor.
You leave this place, John.
I use a BM.
It's not people like you that are looking for a stock market. Neighbor to neighbor. Until you crash the stock market now. Nonsense. BM. What is all this nonsense I'm seeing? What are you seeing? Cincinnati. This is the new stock market in town now. When you want to make money now, you understand? You invest in stock market. You come out. I hear one bros. He's talking before. He says stock market. Young go, old people, they are doing it. Why are you laughing, bro?
I just know that this your head is big for nothing. It is Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Are you the one that hear the conversation? Abi is me. As he's going, he says stock market.
It's a securities market where you can invest your savings into shares, bonds, and other mutual funds. They even have app. You can monitor your transaction like this. Even get information on their product. Stock brokers.
So it's not. It's that man that confused me because
you keep quiet.
I mean, you have Gary that we can use for the stockfish.
Thank you so much for watching. We are more than stocks. We're a multi-asset securities exchange. So please, when you leave here today, help us tell all people in your area of influence. Yeah. Thank you so much. Safety is also very important to us at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So before this flight finally takes off, I will encourage you to look at our safety briefing as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nigerian Stock Exchange Event Center. At the Nigerian Stock Exchange, your comfort and safety is our priority. As part of our health and safety policy, please listen to the following announcement. For your convenience, the restrooms are located to your right, just outside the door of this event hall. In the unlikely event of an emergency, 2 exits have been provided for your use. A stairway that you can access from the lift lobby just before you enter the event center. Another emergency exit is located right behind this stage's backdrop. The door can be opened by pushing the handle. Please do not use the elevators during an emergency. Rather, locate the nearest exit from where you are sitting in a calm and orderly fashion. Emergency responders will also be available to provide additional instructions as required. Please switch off your cell phones or activate the silent function so we don't interrupt the proceedings here today. Once again, welcome. And do enjoy your stay at the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Thank you very much. It's also important to reiterate the fact that this event is being streamed live across our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And I will encourage us to be very interactive during the question and answer session. The details about our social media and those, in case you want to tweet at us or drop a comment on Instagram, will be showed on the screen. Before I call the chief presenter for this morning, we also like to recognize the presence of some of our esteemed council members here present, and we thank you all other doyens or captains of the capital market here present. It is my pleasure to now invite to the microphone the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar N. Onyema, OON.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Olumide. Let me recognize council members of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, my doyens present, and my colleagues that are also here. Today, we want to talk about the performance in 2019 and talk about our outlook for 2020. So we're going to look at the global context in which we're operating in, look at the product performance, strategy performance, and then wrap up with our 2020 outlook. Markets and economic recap. In 2019, global capital markets performance varied widely, primarily driven by regional economic performance. In developed countries like the US, capital markets were up, with leading indices like the Dow Jones Industrial Average breaking record highs. This was bolstered by favorable US economic policy, such as tax cuts, robust economic growth, and lowered interest rates. Similarly, the Nikkei 500 was up by 21% on the back of a strengthened yen and growing corporate earnings. In Africa, it was a tale of mixed performance across benchmark countries, with some parts of the continent posting positive returns, while some ended the year in negative territory. If we look at how we stack up with our benchmark exchanges within Africa, the NSE All-Share Index underperformed. It also underperformed as compared with the MSCI Frontier Market Index and the MSCI Emerging Market Index. The Nigerian capital market mirrored the performance of the larger economy, which continued its moderate path of recovery, growing by 2.28% as recorded in the third quarter of 2019. The pace of the Nigerian economy remained fragile as the economy continued to grow below population growth, leading to per capita income and unemployment challenges. From an international investor's perspective, the Nigerian bourse had to compete with developed and emerging capital markets, which saw risk-based assets priced and valued more competitively. Capital-conducive U.S. federal policy enabled foreign investors to economically enhance leverage and seek investment opportunities in their home and adjacent countries, as Africa's largest economy adjusted to new economic realities. On the domestic front, investors contended with 1, the macroeconomic landscape, 2, fiscal and monetary policy direction, and 3, a wait-and-see attitude given trends in foreign portfolio investments. Despite welcomed stability in the FX market due to the CBN's intervention, concerns around the stability of the Naira remained prevalent. In regards to corporate performance, corporate earnings were moderate as at the first half of 2019. These aforementioned factors impacted the equity markets negatively during the year. However, our fixed income market performed exceptionally well in 2019, reflecting a flight to safety. Despite challenges faced, we continue to execute on the NSE's 2018 to 2021 corporate strategy geared towards 1, enhancing the customer experience across the value chain, 2, reorganizing for success, and 3, capitalizing on mission-critical strategic initiatives such as our demutualization effort. During the year, we continue to enhance our product portfolio, orchestrated groundbreaking investment forums, and listed some of Africa's largest companies. 2019 product performance. NSE equity product performance. Although the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index posted a negative return of 14.6% to close the year at 26,842 points, the All-Share Index reached a year high of 32,715 in February of 2019. Furthermore, The equity market capitalization increased by 10.55% to 12.97 trillion naira from 11.73 trillion naira in 2018, largely due to sustained primary market activities throughout the year, most notably the listing of MTN Nigeria Communications PLC and Airtel Africa. NSE indices also posted negative returns during the year, with the NSE Consumer Goods Index being the most impacted, declining 20.83%, followed by the NSE Main Board Index and the NSE Lotus Islamic Index, which dropped by 20% and 17.87% respectively. The Nse Insurance Index and the NSE Premium Board Index were the least impacted, declining by 0.52% and 3.59% respectively. Equity market turnover decreased by 19.7% year-on-year from 1.2 trillion naira recorded in December 2018 to 0.96 trillion naira in December of 2019. The financial services sector, which accounted for over 50% of total activity, remained the highest traded in volume and value, as was the case in 2018. To support the equity market in 2019, we rolled out various new initiatives, such as a new market structure to enhance liquidity and ensure overall market stability, alongside efficiency, as well as launched the beta version of the X Mobile app, a dynamic and user-friendly mobile app to boost retail investor participation. The NSE fixed income product performance. Our fixed income market performed exceptionally well in 2019 as market capitalization increased by 20.42% to 12.92 trillion naira from 10.72 trillion naira in 2018. Turnover also increased by 389% when compared to 2018 levels. Capital raising was dominated by the federal government, being responsible for 60% of bond issuances during the period in a bid to finance fiscal and infrastructure deficits. The year 2019 saw the groundbreaking listing of Access Bank PLC's 15 billion naira green bond, the first of its kind to be issued by an African corporate. We also saw the listing of North-South Power Company Limited's 8.5 billion naira corporate infrastructure green bond, which was oversubscribed by 60%, with firm commitments from 12 institutional investors, including 9 pension funds. Capital raising by corporates increased by 321.61%, with a total of 132.68 billion naira raised in 2019. In addition to these accomplishments, the exchange signed an MOU with the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, the largest green bond listing platform in the world, at the World Federation of Exchanges conference held in Singapore. The MOU is geared towards promoting cross-listings and trading of green bonds in Nigeria and Luxembourg. We believe relationships of this nature, which foster cooperation, further enhances our ability to deliver greater value to our stakeholders. NSE ETP product performance. In the exchange-traded fund market, we saw the listing of Greenwich Alpha ETF from Greenwich Asset Management Limited, which tracks the NSE 30 index. Despite the 61.37% year-on-year decline in trade volumes, 46.43% fall in turnover, there was a 7.43% year-on-year increase in market capitalization to close the year at 6.58 billion naira. The best performing ETF was the New Gold ETF, as it returned 31.75%, indicative of the shift towards more stable investment securities. Also, to optimize investors' returns, we partnered with AfriInvest Securities Limited to launch 2 new factor ETF indices, the NSE AfriInvest Banking Value Index and the NSE AfriInvest High Dividend Yield Index. Similarly, we partnered with Meristem Securities Limited to launch the NSE Meristem Growth Index and NSE Meristem Value Index to provide a benchmark for the market to gauge the performance of value stocks and growth stocks listed on the exchange. NSE Strategic Performance. The exchange showed commitment to achieving its strategic objectives during the year under review. We focused on our key targets to continue to execute on the NSE's 2018 to 2021 corporate strategy, inclusive of restructuring the organization, onboarding new financial instruments, and developing the market, as well as focusing on customer centricity. A key aspect to our vision of becoming Africa's preferred exchange hub is to successfully demutualize the organization. Having met the necessary requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the exchange has obtained a letter of no objection to enable us proceed to the final stages of the demutualization process. We have also sensitized our stakeholders on the process of demutualization and will continue engagement throughout the process. In anticipation for derivatives trading on the exchange, the NSE released a derivatives market rulebook that will serve as a guide for trading derivatives on the bourse. Highlighted below are other milestones achieved during the year. Business development, strategic initiative projects. We launched X mobile app to boost investors' participation, investor relations data pack to enhance issuers' stakeholder engagement, mutual fund trading and distribution platform to enhance the retail customer experience, X Academy e-learning platform to make quality learning accessible and affordable to individuals, corporations, and institutions. Key listings. We listed the MTN Nigeria Communications PLC by introduction on the premium board, cross-border listing of Airtel Africa on the main board alongside London Stock Exchange, Sacor PLC by IPO on the main board, Access Bank PLC 15 billion green bond, and North-South Power Company Limited 8.5 billion corporate infrastructure green bond. We also listed the Greenwich Alpha ETF focused on tracking the NSE 30 index. Index launch. I've already mentioned the indices that were launched in partnership with AfriInvest and Meristem. Market development. Primary market forums. We hosted interactive session in collaboration with Coronation Merchant Bank to spur growth in the insurance sector. We also hosted an interactive session with stakeholders in the consumer goods sector to discuss the role of the capital market in unlocking value in its sector. Secondary market forums. Held inaugural edition of the Islamic Finance in Nigeria Forum in partnership with Red Money Group to harness the Islamic finance sector for infrastructure development and economic growth. Organized fixed income trading workshop to enhance the capacity of dealing members and increase investors' participation. Securities lending. Worked with securities lending agents to develop a securities lending pool currently worth about 1 billion naira. Also sensitize stakeholders on the possibilities that abound with securities lending. Rules on pricing methodology. Amended rules on pricing methodology to ensure overall market stability and efficiency and fairness in pricing securities. Strategic partnerships. Signed the MOU with the Luxembourg Stock Exchange to cooperate in promoting cross-listings and trading of green bonds in Nigeria and Luxembourg. NSE inaugural hackathon. We organized our first ever hackathon designed to encourage tech enthusiasts to develop innovative fintech solutions to drive up millennial participation in the capital markets. Capital market event. We hosted the fourth market data workshop to inspire market participants and the wider ecosystem to become more innovative in the use of market data. Investor protection. Pursuant to the exchange's strategic focus on investors' protection, the NSE facilitated restitutions and recoveries of shares worth 1.43 billion naira for investors in 2019. Our Enterprise Innovation Hub. We forged partnerships with several institutions such as Seedstars and Rubies to improve listings and enhance investors' participation in the capital market. We also hosted the first annual meeting of the FinTech Association of Nigeria. X Academy. We recorded a 150% increase in the number of participants trained across several courses offered, and also obtained full accreditation with the Center for Management Development. Listing regulation. Revised free float rules to enhance liquidity amongst quoted companies and streamlined the listing process to reduce the time to market for issuance and listing of securities in order to drive more listings on the exchange. And these revisions were done in partnership with the Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria. Broker-dealer regulation. We enhanced the SEC and NSE financial reporting template for capital market operators to align with new international financial reporting standards and compliance requirements. Corporate citizenship. Financial literacy. We joined the World Federation of Exchanges and the International Organization for Securities Commissions in the inaugural Ring the Bell for Financial Literacy initiative. Sustainability. We launched the first facts behind the sustainability report to promote environmental, social, and governance practice and reporting. We launched the sustainability disclosure guidelines in addition to partnering with Recycle Points and Mentor for Environmental Development Initiative for Children, MEDIC, to help preserve the environment. Corporate challenge. We raised a record 51 million naira in the 6th edition of the annual 5K race and introduced free capital screening for 254 individuals. Also made a second-time donation of 20 million naira, bringing the total funds raised in 2019 to 71 million naira in the fight against cancer. Education Intervention Program. We continue to honor our pledge of supporting the Maisandari Alamdari Model Nursery and Primary School located in the Abuja Talakawa district of Maiduguri to help internally displaced persons by donating an additional 10 million naira in 2019. In recognition of all the work that we've done in the CSR sphere, the exchange got a number of awards, including the Best Corporate Social Responsibility Initiative Award from Markets World Awards, CSR Practitioner of the Year from the CIRA's CSR Award Africa, and Outstanding Invaluable Company Award for CSR from Rotary International. 2020 Outlook. We expect about 3 key factors to shape the Nigerian economy in 2020. Oil price and production, the global economy, political stability, and business environment. Oil price and production. Since Nigeria still remains reliant on oil production for FX reserves, the dynamics of oil price and production will continue to influence the capital markets and the larger economy. Factors such as US and Iranian tension, oil supply shocks, and progress in trade negotiations between US and China will impact on crude oil prices globally, and therefore on Nigeria as well. The global economy. The IMF World Economic Outlook predicts global growth of 3.4% in 2020. This is predicated on reduced trade and geopolitical tensions and macroeconomic strain in Euro area that have dampened business confidence and investment decisions. We note that Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to grow at 3.59%, which is a slight increase from the 2019 estimates. The road ahead. Domestically, market segments may be buoyant by a steady and stable recovery in the domestic economy alongside continued sustainability in monetary policy. The signing into law of Nigeria's Finance Bill 2019 and implementation of the 2020 budget may have a positive impact on companies' earnings as well as consumer spending. Accordingly, the exchange will continue to advocate for business-friendly economic environment, working in conjunction with both the public and private sectors. The year 2020 has started on a good note, with the NSE All-Share Index recording a 9.48% improvement year to date. We intend to work closely with our stakeholders to sustain this growth trajectory. In our aspiration to become a more agile and demutualized exchange, and pursuant to the SEC's no objection letter, which we received in December of 2019, we will proceed to next steps, which includes seeking formal approval from our members on our demutualization scheme. We are committed to continually provide clarity on the demutualization process to our various stakeholders through regular engagements. While keeping an eye on the strategic intent of the exchange post-demutualization, we will continue to leverage our vast network of stakeholders, in addition to developing new strategic partnerships with the goal of delivering better products and services to our customers. As African champions, we will maintain momentum in executing our corporate strategy in our efforts to elevate the prominence of African financial markets. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onyema, for that very elaborate presentation. We now go to the question and answer session. I would like to encourage each and every person that wants to ask a question. You signify by raising up your hand. You state your name and the organization that you work for. And please, let's be brief and concise so that we can go around as many people in the room as possible. Okay, it's question and answer time. So let's start with Mr. Nonawo, then we'll come to you, Otto Abasi.
Thank you, Olumide. The team from Nigerian Stock Exchange. First, I must commend the fact that you've kept with tradition in the annual ritual. But for the presentation, for me, I do know that the velocity, as far as the market is concerned, dropped significantly in the year under review. And the reason I'm concerned about velocity has to do with the fact that operators in the market can only make money if the market runs on a higher velocity than it's running. But having heard your presentation, I didn't hear anything that has to do with the internal challenges and what you're hoping to do with those challenges to be able to help the market. And in this regard, I was expecting that you talk about how you're going to address the issue of float, how you are going to address the issue of enforcement, much more, how you're going to take information and public knowledge issues much more, how you're going to look at even the issue of briefing. This briefing comes once every year. I can't remember in the last 6-7 years that the president of the exchange itself has even briefed anybody as far as the media is concerned. And I think that these are issues that going forward that we need to address. But much more to the fact is, The last time we also hear, you talked about having to release forecasts so that everybody will be on the same page in terms of information. Forecast still comes in and nobody is aware as to what the companies are doing until the actual comes in. So how soon are we going to see forecasts? But for me, as far as the market development is concerned, yes, I do know that we have presidents, and very many times the president has come from outside the persons who make money in terms of being professionals, being president. Are we foreseeing a situation in the nearest future where brokers themselves who own the market will be, because you talk about demutualization, will become president of the exchange so that they know where the shoe pinches? And for demutualization, is the press part of the stakeholder when it comes to demutualization? If we are, how soon are we expecting that you also engage us when it comes to demutualization? Because we don't want a situation where all is wrapped, then you then tell us, because if people don't want to understand this, and that's why I talked about information, the backlash may not be what you probably expect. By the way, are investors also part of the demutualization? Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to ask those questions. Thank you.
That was quite brief, Mr. Nona. So we take Otto Abasi. Question.
Good morning, CEO and members of principal officers of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. My name is Otto Abasi from ProShare Web TV. I'd first like to thank the NSC once again for hosting us for this forum. And quickly we'll go to a few questions I have. Acknowledging the challenges and of course the strides, we know that the NSC has set a good board to create that opportunity for high potential companies to come on board and deepen market activities. We'd like to know the timeline of operability of this good board, because it's a wonderful initiative which should encourage companies to come in and engage in the capital market. So we'd like to know the timeline operability of the growth board, which is a good initiative. Secondly, as we know, our population has half of it driven by millennials, half of the population. And last year you had the X-Carton, which is drawn from the Enterprise Innovation Hub. So I'd like to know how you're going to scale this activity, because it's very important. Is it going to be an annual X-Carton to provide these companies with innovative products that can deepen millennial participation in the capital market, because we need to increase the retail investor base post-2009 capital market crisis. And finally, last year at the ASEA Summit, understand that the Nigerian Stock Exchange had understanding with 6 other exchanges looking at cross-border link platform partnership. So how would this shape the Nigerian Stock Exchange by the time it takes effect first quarter 2021? Thank you very much for the time.
Good morning, all. The executives of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. My name is Oladipo Aino. I serve in Signet Investment and Securities Limited. We are participants of the 2019 results. We started very well in 2019. But somehow things got the other way towards the middle of the year and the end of the year. We have started very well this year, but there's a need for us to keep our eyes on the ball. Why do I say that? All the policies appear to favor us as we speak in the market. But my fear, and I hope I'm proved wrong, is that if the CBN, for example, does not sustain the current policy, because I can see the bankers going back to the CBN governor, saying things are not in their favor. So we need to rev up our advocacy in this regard, so that the government, the policymakers don't change gear differently about the current policy which I consider very favorable to the market.
Okay, so Mr. Onyema will answer this first set of questions, then we'll take another round of questions.
Thank you very much for that first salvo of questions. Let me start with Nonna's comments about market velocity. Yes, we observed the same thing, a reduction in market velocity, and it's indicative of the fact that the market, after the high we saw in February, saw a sustained downward trend. And in a down market in Nigeria, velocity tends to suffer. If you look at what has already happened at the beginning of this year, where we're seeing an up market, that has been accompanied by a significant increase in velocity. So I think that the culture here is that velocity tends to increase when the market is going up, and we just need to do a better job of educating investors around the fact that even in a down market, there are opportunities to make money, including from securities lending and short selling, and appropriate stock picking, because there are quite a number of individual stocks that did well in 2019. The other comment you raised about addressing float question, I think by and large we've addressed the float question by looking at the premium board and removing a percentage threshold and putting an absolute naira amount. And we're currently looking at seeing if such an approach would make sense for the main board. On the growth board, we haven't launched it yet, but the rules have been approved, and you will see that what we've tried to do there is to focus on assisting fast-growing companies achieve their growth objectives. And so the emphasis on float is there, but it's not the primary thing. So we'll continue to have these discussions, and we're very open to new ways to address the free float issues. I should also say that in setting our free float parameters, we benchmarked against other markets around the globe, including the very liquid markets. And there are different ways to do it. We believe the way we've done it is appropriate for the level of development of the market. Excuse me. On enforcement, as you know, the exchange is a self-regulatory organization, and while we have a number of tools in our tool kit to address infractions from an enforcement perspective, we have to work in partnership with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the EFCC to address other aspects of enforcement where our powers are limited to do that. So those engagements are very well defined, and we continue to meet with them on a regular basis and refer cases to them on a regular basis. Information, I think we've really ramped up on information disclosure, especially around the use of tech. the way the MEMATs have been structured, it does not limit, not prescribe any particular category of persons to be chairman of the board. So that's the way the thinking is going right now. Press and investors. Yes, you're key stakeholders, and you will recall that when we were going through the legislation process to get the demutualization bill enacted into law, we had several sessions in Abuja and in Lagos with the press to enlighten them and pass information around what we're doing with regards to demutualization. Now that we've seen the no objection letter, which we just got in December, we're now putting in place final touches to have the court ordered meeting and the EGM. And in the lead up to that, there will be significant engagement with investors, with the press, with our primary constituents, the brokers and other members of the exchange and the general public. So there's a very robust plan already in place for that, and you'll see that roll out in the lead up to the EGM. Otua Basi, the question on a growth board. The growth board rules have been approved. The structure is in place. We did not launch because we wanted to launch with a listing. We're also looking to continue to improve on that growth board to address questions around how do you help early stage companies come to market, even if it is not in a full public market context. We hope that this year there will be companies that can list on that board, and then we'll launch it with those listings. With regards to hackathon, we want to make it a yearly event. As you know, there are two objectives for us with the hackathon. The first one is to uncover these bright ideas that are solving specific problems. And then the second one is for us to actually invest in them and help them to accelerate their development and bring those products to market faster. And that investment is usually in the form of a seed amount of money that we put in, but we also host them in our facilities and work with them to accelerate. So this year, last year, we had 3 companies that we selected, and we're already working with them. And this year, we intend to have another hackathon to address a different question. It may not be the same question. You know, in 2019, what we're trying to address is how do you access millennials? These 3 platforms have different perspectives to addressing that question. So in 2020, we have not decided yet what the question will be that we're trying to solve. And then the Africa Exchange Linkage Project. That project is very much alive and well. We were in Botswana late last year, where the chairman of Ashon signed on behalf of the Nigerian brokers. There is now an association of African brokers. You know, the bedrock of the Africa Exchange Linkage Project is going to be the brokers. Brokers having partnerships across border and being able to transmit orders amongst themselves to execute in the home country. We also have a pot of money that has been made available by the Africa Korea Fund in partnership with the Africa Development Bank, and we're working with them to, we've hired a project manager based in Nairobi to put in place all the structures from a technology perspective to rules to the operating model and the rest of it. So that effort is very much underway, and we hope to see the very first trades come across that linkage in the very near future. The last question from Mr. Aina is a comment. It is well noted, and I encourage all of us to pay attention to it. It's very important, at least the feedback we've received from investors, both domestically and internationally, is policy consistency so that people can plan accordingly. And so it's important for all of us to continue to engage with policymakers to transmit that information.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Onyema. Alhaji Kurfi first. We'll take another 3 set of questions.
My name is Gasum Garo Kurfi. I represent FET Securities. In the course of your briefing, I observed the CEO is silent on the mutual funds. And I believe this is something very, very critical for us, because first in the history of this market, mutual fund capitalization reached 1 trillion. And this is very, very significant. And I believe that the issue where the SEC insists that mutual funds should have market maker or a broker who represent them, this issue should be raised now. Where you have 1 trillion capitalization, this is, you are talking about 8 to 9% of our capitalization, and we want diversification. So there is the need to see that the brokers that are market maker of those mutual funds start working, so that we'll be able to enable our low investors who doesn't understand the working of the market to move into the mutual fund that will serve them better. The other issue is the issue of these demutualization. I believe, yes, it comes on the board, but we will appreciate if this demutualization can come much earlier, because I believe it will add value to the market and it will encourage other companies to get listed. Then finally, I want us to look at this issue of delisting. We are all aware, Nigerian bottling, 7-Up. Today, Dangote, because it's acquired by Olam, delisted. I think we need to go into these issues. If we allow this to continue going, though we cannot stop it, but there is a need for the exchange to see the way to bring them home. Olam were never quoted here, but they are quoted there in their own country. Why can't we see that you have acquired a company that is quoted and now you delisted? And not only delisted, immediately the list were removed from the CSS. So now we find it very difficult for the client to even claim their money. At least we expect their name should appear for at least 6 months, so that we encourage those clients that have not taken their money. Look, you have this holding, why don't you go and fill it? But immediately it was delisted, immediately it was removed. It was never done before. I want you to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And it's, then we'll come back to you.
My name is Henry Tenaga, publisher Hennis Online. My takeaway from your presentation is simple. As far as the presentation is concerned, in 2019, the Nigerian Stock Exchange was like a farmer that did all it could to plant new seeds in a particular field. But because of the state of the weather, he ended up harvesting almost nothing. Now, in this case, the weather is the economy and the economic management scene. All your ex-management, market development efforts, and all the rest of it, they are well listed there. So it is clear that there's a linkage, too much dependence on government policies and government attitude towards the market. The market is too much at the expense of that. I want you to be more specific on, since you see this kind of trend, what, if you can be more specific on what you trying to do to reduce this dependence, especially in the form of, like we were talking about, investor education and the rest of them. I wonder if you could be more specific. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tunde Shobamo, I work for Global Asset. At the risk of repeating what has been said before, I think we should just take a quick look at the market structure from 2000 to 2020, 20 years down the line. you will agree with me that things are not really changed in the sense that at times people make money, sometimes they don't make money. That's probably we don't have any influence to that because of the policy somersault by the federal government. Well, sharing news, we started 2020 with some upbeats, but between you and I, you know that just a few stocks are making this happen. We are dependent on where we have about three companies constituting almost 75% of the stocks listed. That to me is a danger. So we are just like running around in circles. So we need to actually find out from your research end and from people who can still think very well in the broker end also, to really sit down and find out exactly how we can avert this danger. It keeps on coming. So that's why I said from 2000 to 2019, the trend has always been the same. People have made money in this market, people have lost money. Number two, FMDQ has been licensed to take on equity trading. I haven't attended so many meetings like this, but I think I'm not sure we really looked at the implication of FMDQ coming on stream. I recall as a market operator when Abuja Stock Exchange came on board, it was fought because at that time, I think Alhaji Abdulrazak was president. They did everything possible, and eventually it was turned into a commodity stock exchange. There must have been some things that the people saw at that time why they didn't want another exchange to come on stream. But we cannot even hold that now. Now the people who have money, FMDQ, you know the amount of trade that they do. What we as an exchange, what are we doing? Are we going to be in collaboration with them? Or what are we going to do exactly? Because are they going to trade on some equities outside the ones we are trading now? It's very, very important we should. I want policy statement from the exchange. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Onyema. You can take this set of three questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I take the questions, I think there was a question from the last round that I missed. I didn't answer it. The question was, we're having this get together, and are we going to have it more often during the year? Are we going to wait until 2021 before we have it? As you know, this market recap and outlook is an annual event. However, during the course of the year, we actually engage with various stakeholders on a continuous basis. And last year, we also introduced a conference call, a global conference call, where both domestic and international stakeholders log on to the call and are able to interact with me and other officials to understand where we are, the state of the market, and the key issues of the day. So we'll continue to have those engagements. With regards to Mr. Alhaji Kofi's comments on mutual funds, I did state in my remarks that we launched the mutual fund trading platform, and a number of brokers. This was in partnership actually with Ashon and with the Mutual Fund Association, Fund Manager, FMAN, and a number of other players. And the goal really was to actually take the assets under management to 1 trillion and above. So I'm happy that those numbers are coming in. I think it's very important for us, the broker community, to continue to use our platform to distribute these mutual funds, because instant diversification to investors. In our environment, stock picking is very difficult, and the ability to react to market changes is such that you need to be focused on it full-time. And so we encourage that and we continue to support that. The demutualization, we're working as quickly as we can to complete it. We hope that very soon we'll put out the notices for the AGM. There are statutory requirements, right? So you have to wait 28 days for the court order meeting when you give the notice, and for the EGM 21 days. These are, we're following the process, and trust me, we worked through the holiday period to see how quickly we can bring in these meetings. Delisting, I know that I get this question on an annual basis around delisting. The life of an exchange is such that some companies leave and other companies come on board. If you look at the market cap of the exchange, we brought in a number of heavyweights, but we also lost a number of companies. So what exchanges are actually trying to do is that net-net, you have a positive in terms of number of companies listed and the market capitalization. We can't really force anybody to stay listed or to even list in the first place. So we have to provide the value and hope that they continue to extract that value and they find a compelling case to list or to stay listed. We've heard your comments and we'll continue to work with the various parties. I'm not going to mention names, but I want you to know that before a company delists, even if it is through a merger, there is a lot of engagement that goes on. Sometimes we have those engagements even in their home countries to make sure that we're talking to the most senior people, the people that have the decision-making powers. The comment from Hamid online, what would the exchange... I'm going to address it from two perspectives. The first one, as a market. The market operates in an economic context. And if you have a market that is creating new records every day in terms of the all-share index, and the economy it is existing in is not doing well, there's something wrong with that market. The market needs to reflect what is going on in the economy. And indeed, it's a forward indicator of what is going on in the economy. So from that perspective, I'm not sure there's much that we can do other than to continue to engage with policymakers to try to make sure that policies that come out are market-friendly policies and drive economic growth. The second aspect to the question is the exchange as an institution. If you look around the world, exchanges have addressed this question by demutualizing and going into new lines of businesses and new geographies. I don't see us being any different. The next question is from Mr. Tunde Shobamiwa, Capital Assets. I did not understand the first question. In markets, you make money and you lose money. That's standard. You don't only make money. You make money and you lose money. That's if there's somebody buying, there's somebody selling. So there are two sides to that coin. I'm not sure I understand the question. With regards to FMDQ, we're very much aware of the announcement that has been made, and I hope you will give us some credit that we've done our analysis. However, our strategic response is not something we would be announcing to anybody. Suffice it to say that in Nigeria, the laws provide for competition, and indeed there is a new competition commission that has been established, and there's a new competition law. And so what was done when the Abuja Commodities Exchange was announced, I think will not be feasible under the existing laws in the country. And as a law-abiding exchange, we're going to compete and compete hard and compete within the law.
We'll take one last round of questions since we intend this meeting to end at 1 o'clock and we started on time. 11, sorry. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Andy Saku, Capital Care Trust. And since this appears to be the first formal interaction of the exchange in the year 2020, let me crave the indulgence to say Happy New Year to everybody. I want to talk briefly about market development or penetration, as it were. And I'd like to start from where Olumide started. The jingle that we had, I suppose, is intended not only for this audience, but for the wider world. So my comment around that is whether you've actually debated, not just here, but you've gone public. Because the idea is to communicate about the exchange to the wider world. The sad story or narrative about a market is there is less penetration thus far. And it's not a problem of the exchange. So I'm speaking to both the exchange and the other stakeholders that there's a lot more we need to do in fashioning out in the minds of people that we're a business. And the business is worth the while. So I'll be glad to hear the jingle on national TV, on all the channels possibly. The second area in terms of what the exchange is truly doing, and that's quite commendable, is in the area of the essay competition that is being undertaken. I've been privileged to participate in the market, but in terms of geographical spread, I have noticed, I may be wrong, but I have noticed that it's a bit restrictive in terms of the level of participation. That's one way you get people to know that is first an exchange and is what they do. So, for example, schools within the South-South, Southwest, and the like seem to be the dominant participants. I don't know whether it is out of a failure in terms of the exposure. I know it's on the site. I mean, not many people probably access sites, but can there be a deliberate policy towards expanding the scope of participation? Thank you.
Okay, Bonnie Amadi.
Thank you, everybody, including my CEO and his supporters. I am Bonnie Amadi of West Africa Business News. So we've been having a low performance of the ETF segment year on year. And I think maybe this time you could have told us what to expect and how your team is going to change the narrative as regards the ETF and the challenges that keep behoving that segment of the market. I also relate this to the primary marketers or the alternative securities exchange market. It's been on the downside. And I think the exchange also need to let the house know what to expect this year to make it more buoyant and make it more participatory by the retail investors or the general investors. So last year you talked about expectation of onboarding some government entities and bringing them to the market. We didn't see much of that last year. I don't know whether you've had some commitments towards that, and maybe we're expecting more of that to enhance our market volume. Please, I don't know whether you've, or there is any strong fundamental you think is in place now, or the exchange has put in place to effect a natural correction in the equity segment as we've been having year-on-year decline, aside from the macroeconomic indices. The weak consumer spending and the inflationary trend in the economy, how do you think it will affect the performance of the equities market this year? Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you take the last two questions again? I didn't quite get you.
The last question, I mean, the weak consumer spending and the rising inflationary trend, how do you think it will impact the equities market this year?
We'll take two more questions from this side. The gentleman from Next Money and Mr. Ahmad to take it.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Alex Ekemena. I work for Next Money. I have just a question, and that is on X Academy. I have noticed this, and correct me if I'm wrong in my perception or in my observation, that the X Academy is tailored from the very beginning to, provide a kind of income stream for the exchange, in which case the participants are made to pay some money for participation and the rest of it. But that automatically excludes some of those, especially those of us from the media who are interested in such programs, because some of us, majority of us, could not afford to pay such, money charged for participation in these programs. I don't know whether that is deliberate or you have in mind of including, the possibility of having those who are interested in undergoing some of these courses, but not having the ability to pay this money, so that they can gain more knowledge in a dynamic setting, to understand the complexity of the market workings and the rest of it. That is just my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mine is Emeka Madubike, Compass Investments and Securities. Mine is just a comment I just want to congratulate the exchange. We just came out of 2019 that was very, very bloody. And it takes a lot to dig in, and so I just want to congratulate you, commend you for all the steps you took during the year, and as we enter into 2020, yes, we're starting good. My hope is, I choose to be a prisoner of hope. My hope is that we'll continue to do good, but my only encouragement is to say, look, while you're doing what you're doing, all of us who are your members must go with you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Onyema, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Andy, thank you very much for wishing us a Happy New Year. I should have started with that. So it's never too late. So let me wish everybody a very Happy New Year. I wish all of you success in 2020. So the question about the flick that you just saw, it's on our website, but we do have a branding strategy that will coincide with the demutualization. So you will see a lot of advertising and things like that to support the demutualization effort and the new entities that would emanate from a demutualized exchange. So thank you for that. We agree with you, and we're moving forward with it. Essay competition. The essay competition is a national competition, and the efforts are national. At the risk of sounding controversial, I think what you're seeing is actually a reflection of the bigger issues in the economy in terms of education. Be that as it may, I believe 5 or 6 years ago, the person that won actually came from Bauchi. Huh? Yeah. I even have some concerns because in the last 3 or 4 editions, it's women that have been winning. And I'm wondering, what are the boys doing? You know, we need to have a balance. But having said that, I must say that 2019 was actually one of our best years. We, in terms of the essay competition, we doubled the number of essays that we received from 20,000 to 40,000. Yeah, right. So we were actually grading 40,000 papers. And for this year, I think this is the 20th anniversary of that competition. We want to make it a special edition. So we're going to redouble our efforts and try to make sure that, and we can start now. Let me challenge all of you. Can you get your secondary school, where you went to secondary school, to enter at least one essay? Right? So we have people, so that's one. Then your children go to secondary schools. Can they also, you know? So let us increase that number from 40,000 to, or grandchildren, you know, from 40,000 to something higher. Because the truth is that essay competition actually helps these students to focus their minds on the capital markets. And some of the essays are really well written and beautiful. The next comment is from Bonnie Amadi, low performance of the ETF sector. I'm going to allow the ETF, the head of our trading business, who ETF reports to address that question.
All right, thank you very much for that question. From the analysis, you can see that the volume and value of trades is basically what went down. But in terms of the market cap, that was significantly much higher because we had new listings. So I think the bottom line is there's need for more investor education. And so we'll continue to do that just to encourage investors to participate more in that asset class. Because what we're seeing is that people are not really too familiar with our products. And so they do the plain vanilla products that they are aware of. But I think with increased investor education, a couple of them we did last year, we'll probably do a whole lot more of that this year. And hopefully, as investors begin to have a better understanding of how the product works, we'll probably begin to see increased participation in that product.
Thank you. I think all of us have to support the ETF asset category. We will do more training, the exchange will do more training, but even as you talk to your clients, it's important for them to see the entire array of products that are available at the exchange and not just equity. In fact, if you look at our fixed income market cap, it's almost the same thing as the equity market cap. So, and ETF globally is one of the fastest growing asset classes. And while we've done well, we now have about 10 ETFs listed in Nigeria. That makes us the second largest ETF market in Africa. I think there's still significant opportunity for growth in terms of number of listings, the assets under management, and the turnover of trading that goes on with ETFs. The ASEM, with the launch of the growth board, we're changing our philosophy around boards from junior to senior. We're not doing that anymore. We have a horizontal strategy, if you will, where everybody is equal, but we're servicing different segments of the market. So what premium board companies need is not necessarily what growth board companies need, even though they could be of the same size. We are moving forward, not going to be supporting the ASM board, and indeed we intend to decommission it. That is the approach that we're taking. With regards to unbundling government entities and getting them to the market, we worked very closely with the Bureau of Public Enterprises in 2019. And indeed, one of the listings that we saw was SACOL, the IPO. Because the market was soft, they wanted, BPE wanted to slow down a little bit and make sure, just like any other issuer, we want to make sure that you have a solid market that can support IPOs before coming back in. So that effort is very much ongoing, and indeed, we made several presentations at the Governors Forum, at the National Economic Council, and worked with the various states on how to unbundle value using the capital markets. And as part of that, we introduced the state days at the exchange. We had the Ekiti State Day. We also had Osun State Day. And we're looking to increase that for 2020. What are our views around low consumer spending and rising inflation and how that will impact the market? It really depends on what is causing the trends. Right, so are people making the same amount of money but choosing to consume less and save more, in which case that is a good thing for the market? Or are people making less and therefore are not able to, you understand? So it is what is causing the trend that will really determine how it impacts the market. And then the last one from Emeka Madubike, Compass Securities, we agree 100% with you. The exchange cannot exist outside of its ecosystem, and so where we go with our members and our stakeholders. And if we're growing, then the only way we can be growing is that our stakeholders are also growing. And so that's the way we think about it. X Academy is designed to provide a competitive learning platform. We spent a lot of money. I announced that we launched the e-learning platform for X Academy. We actually provide in-class experience. We go and get certifications. We partner with people. We bring in people from all over the place. We pay them. And so these things cost money. And so the focus of X Academy is to provide very high quality capacity building at a fee. We also have capacity building that we provide as part of our own contribution towards market development that is free. And indeed, we hosted, I believe in 2019, we hosted the press. Yes, right. We did a training for the press for free, and we'll continue to do that. So it's just a shift in the way it is delivered. If you log on to our platform for X Academy, there's a subscription you have to pay to get into those courses. Let me thank you for very robust discussions. The room is full. It shows there's a significant interest in what we're doing. We want to work with every one of you to move this market forward, make it attractive, and let it take its rightful place as the market for the largest economy on the continent. I wish all of you a very successful 2020. We're here. We're available to take your suggestions, answer your questions, and work with you to develop the market. Thank you very much.